Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this lovely October evening. It is October 11th. This is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Sean Phillips, and today I am joined by my two co-hosts, Mr. Andy Van Beber and Matthew Edelman. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Great.
Yep, very well.
Just before we get too deep into today, I'm going to display what you just heard was different bumper music than what we normally have. This is from, and I'm showing the folks at home on Facebook Live, this is Calamity's Reign. This is a Clopton graduate. This is the name of the album and the name of the group he calls himself. But this guy, this is Charlie Tadlock. I don't know what year, I can't remember what year he graduated. But he does some great stuff. He's posted some a lot lately, but he produced. I talked with Charlie this afternoon or this evening. He produced his own album. So he did the drum machine. He did the bass, the guitar, and then the synthesizer and everything. So we want to give a shout out to Charlie Tadlock. And check him out on wherever you get your music at, pretty much. He's on Spotify. He is on Apple Music. I downloaded his album yesterday, and I listened to it. And I've got 2 tracks. I told Charlie, I said we'd use him for bumper music this week and next week, so we'll play another one of his tracks next week. But that is Calamity's Reign, so check him out.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was wondering. I was like, did we get new intro music? But no, that is that was awesome, man. And Calamity Reign, you said?
Calamity's Reign, R-E.
That's awesome.
Calamity with a K and Reign, R-E-I-G-N. Calamity's Reign. Nice. Really nice.
And Matthew, how are you doing? Did you get any good nudes today? It looks like, or
yes.
Yeah, so I'm doing well. My wife and I took a anniversary/birthday weekend in Chicago last weekend, and she surprised me with this shirt. And about the ramen noodles, interestingly, I've never had ramen noodles.
Yes.
So I don't even know how ramen noodles taste. I've never had them.
You mean you never ate those at all in college?
No, I never did.
Oh my God.
I never did.
That's too much. That is too much.
I worked at a restaurant in college and just stole food from there, and that's how I got by.
What restaurant did you mean the cafeteria?
No, the Riverside Cafe.
You worked at I didn't know you worked at the Riverside Cafe. Oh my God.
They had a terrible way of tracking inventory, so we used to order steaks, but then write up a $6 cheeseburger, take it home with us. It was incredible.
Right. Well, Sean knows all about that from being in the industry, so.
Oh man, I one of my favorite stories, and it's not even like a particularly funny one or anything, but we had a chef when I worked at this place called Overlook, or the station before it had burned down.
Yep.
We had a chef whose name was Russell, who was like kind of a B film version of Gordon Ramsay, just a total dick, had the same haircut, but the man could cook. And he had actually worked in the White House kitchen during the Bush administration. Yes, a very legit chef. And I will never forget, there was a day where none of the dishwashers came in. They were all no call, no show. And I wasn't typically, I didn't really do dishes. I was a server, worked in the kitchen doing like some line stuff and worked the broiler from time to time. And he called me and he was like, "Hey man, what do I got to do to get you to come out and wash dishes for me tonight?" And I said, "Pay me $5 extra an hour than I would normally make, and make me a steak of my choosing." And he said, "Deal. Get your ass on down here." And one of the best nights washing dishes of my life. I would have done it over and over again if that was the deal. Because
yeah,
that's great.
Man, it was fantastic. Oh yeah, always good.
Oh my God.
Well, gentlemen, how was your guys' weekend? Did you guys do anything fun?
I am in the middle. I'm in the middle of what I call the month from hell in the DJ business, but it's not a bad thing. And I've been doing DJing for 20 years, and this is the first time that I've booked 4 weekends in a row, and I'm smack dab in the middle of it. Just got done doing 2 weddings. I did one the first weekend in October and one this last weekend. Next weekend I've got a birthday party for an elderly lady. Oh, not elderly, but an older lady. And then I've got, I think I've got something with, it's like the alumni FFA barn warming something. I'm hoping it gets canceled or something. I know that's terrible, but I'm tired. So.
Yeah. 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 My kid was on fall break, so he had Friday and Monday off. Yesterday we went to an amusement park in Santa Claus, Indiana, called Holiday World.
Yeah.
I've heard of that place. Yeah.
How
is it? I've never been, but I've heard of it. I've never been.
So it's actually really great. It's really clean. It's it's free parking. So, and you get free sodas.
Nice.
Like free sunscreen, free hand sanitizer, whatever. They got these Pepsi Oasis is what they call. They're peppered throughout the park. You just go get you a cup, and it's got like a dozen different kinds of sodas. You get it there for free.
Wow.
We went there with another couple who have boys about my son's age, and I used to be a roller coaster freak, and now I've got to space it out, man, because if I do too many in a row, I'll be thrown up in some bush somewhere. My kid ate a big bowl of ice cream and then went on that silly silo thing that just spins around.
We've talked about that. Did he throw it up?
No. I warned him. I was like, dude, like you were going to narf this. And he was like, fine. And he was. And I couldn't believe it. There's no way I was getting on that.
Speaking of your son being with you last weekend, Matt, while we're at it, let's delve into the latest episode of Matthew's Marriage Tips real quick.
Oh, yeah. He likes to be in those.
Yeah. All right. Here, let me see. Where's my... Okay. We'll try this. If you guys can hear it, if not, we'll just go with it.
Hey guys, another one of Matthew's marriage for you. Your woman will appreciate you spending your afternoon watching football because it will give her more time to mop the kitchen floor. So go ahead, gentlemen, sit back, relax, and she will appreciate your thoughtfulness. See ya.
Yeah,
so it sounded like you were physically assaulted.
It's true.
Oh
and it was a hot steam mop.
Yeah, it was.
She picked it up over her head and tried to come crashing down on top of me with it. And those steam mops are freaking hot. So yeah, that was a short one.
Yeah, well, though that was probably all you could get away with, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Luckily, I was positioned in the hallway so I could run.
There you go.
Yeah.
Classic
I just
stuff.
wish my scream was a little more manly. I didn't expect her to do that.
So that was a true Matt Edelman scream then.
Yeah, and I'm ashamed of it. I wish you could have maybe did something to it to edit the sound to make it more like, hey, something like that.
Yeah.
But
right.
How could you, woman?
How could you? Damn you, woman.
Love it.
All right. Well, I think Matt has a limited schedule, so we're going to make the most of our time. I was told, though, that we needed to make fun of, we went 32 episodes in, and I have never noticed. Matt noticed that Sean has a circular bed behind him.
Yeah.
And so that's we're going to save that discussion for another day. Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we do want to. I do want to also point out. Last week was a record week for us. We want to thank Sean Yates for being on with us last week. Just before the show tonight, I just checked with Matt here. Matt was asking about how our show was going, and so we had 50. We had 52 downloads just in 1 week alone. Now we're getting close to about, I think, 500 or 600 downloads total, but just last week alone, 52 downloads, and then we had another 20 views just on YouTube. And then, of course, we had a lot of people who tagged in. I didn't check to see but we had a lot of people who tagged in with us live last week, too. So we want to thank all those. And again, keep those comments coming. So we appreciate that. So.
Yeah, no, that is seriously, It's been awesome. Each and every week, it's slowly but surely starting to grow. And again, we couldn't do it without the listeners. And I do, before we jump into everything, I just want to give a quick shout out to a couple of different businesses. First and foremost, Van Beber and Sons DJ Service. Make sure you mention the Voice of Reason podcast if you reach out to Mr. Andy Van Beber for your DJ needs. This mentioning the Voice of Reason podcast will get you 10% off.
Easy.
10% off of your.
Whoa.
Maybe if you
Whoa.
beg him, it might get you 20, but mention the Voice of Reason podcast 2021. It'll get you 10% off of your DJ services. Big shout out to our friends at 4 Deep Sports out there in Columbia. Check them out on Instagram, 4 Deep Sports. Also, American Traditional Coffee,
Yes,
AmericanTraditionalCoffee.com. Right now, all inventory of coffee, cups, and shirts is 40% off right before we are doing a rebrand. So there's going to be some great new products. So yeah,
Hopefully
those
3X
are
shirts too, please.
3X shirts for
the
a
fat guys.
special someone. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, let's jump into things. I do want to say a real quick thing that we can totally discuss later, but the big breaking news out of this evening has been John Gruden has officially stepped down as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. That is new as of the last 30, 45
Really?
minutes.
I haven't even heard
Yes, more emails have surfaced today for the tracing peppering back to about 8 years up until about 2018.
Okay.
Allegedly of different, more racist, homophobic, misogynistic, a bunch
Holy
of
cow.
different things coming
Wow.
out in these emails to different owners about other owners in the NFL. Looks like him and Mark Davis had a quick meeting. As more unravels over this next week, this is a pretty big thing in sports, so we'll definitely talk about that next week. But
Yes. Wow.
the big thing
Wow.
we want to talk about today is we're going to go in depth about this Facebook whistleblower that has kind of led to it's been very interesting. Facebook this last week and a half has kind of gone through a couple of different bumps in the roads. And Andy, do you want to kind of
Sure.
take the dive and let the people know what's happening?
Well, as many of you know, last Monday, Facebook and Instagram and the WhatsApp was down for approximately 5 hours on Monday. And of course, Sean and I were wondering if we were even going to be able to have the podcast last week. And then it came on for me about mid-afternoon. I think Sean said about probably closer in the later afternoon, so we were able to do last week's podcast. And then Sean and I didn't even know about this whistleblower till Sean pointed out, and he said, "Don't you think it's convenient that this happened after the interview on 60 Minutes last night?" And I said, well, I didn't even know about a whistleblower. And so to give you guys a little background, we'll play the opening statement. This lady's name is Frances Hagen, and she is no stranger to the internet community. She's worked for Google. She has worked for Pinterest. There was somebody else that she
Yelp.
worked. Yeah, Yelp. You're right. Sorry. And this woman has a master's in computer. I mean, she's no dummy to the community. She's very well established, and she is a very I don't know how you want to say it. She's not a farce by any shape of the imagination. So she did an interview on 60 Minutes last Sunday, and then she testified to Congress on whatever day, October the 5th, so whatever day that was. I guess that would have been last Monday. Last Monday. So she testified last Monday to Congress. And we're going to play a little bit of her opening statement. We won't play much, but I do want you guys to hear who this person is, and then we'll go from there. So we'll play a little bit of the clip.
She made the courageous decision, as all of us here and many others around the world know, to leave Facebook and reveal the terrible truths about the company she learned during her tenure there. And I think we are all in agreement here in expressing our gratitude and our admiration for your bravery in coming forward. Thank you, Ms. Haugen. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Blackburn, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. My name is Frances Haugen. I used to work at Facebook. I joined Facebook because I think Facebook has the potential to bring out the best in us. But I'm here today because I believe Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy. The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people. Congressional action is needed. They won't solve this crisis without your help. Yesterday, we saw Facebook get taken off the internet. I don't know why it went down, but I know that for more than 5 hours, Facebook wasn't used to deepen divides, destabilize democracies, and make young girls and women feel bad about their bodies. It also means that millions of small businesses weren't able to reach potential customers, and countless photos of new babies weren't joyously celebrated by family and friends around the world. I believe in the potential of Facebook.
A little bit of Frances Haugen and her opening, and it was a pretty, she goes on, and she basically testified for 3 hours. And you can go, and that was actually from the Congress's feed. But that was, what she believes is wrong with Facebook. And so her whole thing was what she came forward with was what was good for Facebook versus what was good for the American public. She claims that Facebook is lying about fighting hate, lying, and misinformation. And what this lady did was she started, according to her interview and what you've read about her, she began at the beginning of 2021 saying that she needed to start collecting information because that she believed, like she said there in her opening statement, that Facebook is causing more harm than it is good. And so one of the first things that she said that she and this is from Facebook's own internal documents that they didn't release to the public, but they released to their employees. And one of the first things, and I think it'd be better if we just touch just on this like one thing at a time. One of the first pieces of research that she had come across that really shocked her said that, and this was a direct quote from the research, we estimate that most as little as 3 to 5% that they actually 3 to 5% of hate and about 0.6% of violent and incitement is actually cut back by Facebook. So they have we always see the fact checking thing, and she also said that they released this other statement that says we have evidence from a variety of sources that hate speech, divisive political speech, and misinformation on Facebook and the family of apps are affecting societies around the world. And her other statement, then she said she believes that that Facebook is eroding civic trust. It erodes trust in caring for each other. And she cited the example, and for those who didn't know, in 2018, the Myanmar government, this is a Southeast Asian country, used Facebook to target certain political groups within their government to launch a genocide on their people. And so, and something about Frances Haugen too, that she worked for she was hired to work for the Civic Integrity Unit. She was hired shortly before, she was hired early 2020, and she was hired for the Civic Integrity Unit until election of 2020, and it dissolved after the election. And she thought, okay, this is when it should, and it dissolved before the January 6th occurrence. She's making her biggest claim is this. This is the big thing. She said that in 2018, Facebook changed their algorithms. And everybody, I'm sure at one time or another, you guys have probably said, man, is Facebook like got something like a mic planted on me or something like that? They can hear what I'm thinking or something like that. Well, what that is Facebook changed their algorithm in 2018, and they began seeing the problem. Well, let me back up. They change what you see on your news feed. Okay, they pick up on what you have interacted with the most within the past. Okay, so what they do is they optimize whatever you click on. So let's say that you click on we call it clickbait on Facebook, but you see the ads or you see the whatever, or you see the videos. Like I like watching the Rob Dyrdek show, Ridiculousness. I like that, and I get that kind of stuff sent to me. I click on a lot of, like when NFL does a mic'd up episode, I click on that and I get a lot of NFL. I get NFL news constantly. Okay, so it picks what you have interacted with the most in the past, and it optimizes that to get you to react or engage more. So what ends up happening is Facebook then makes that money off of that advertise. The more you're engaged, so the more you're engaged into Facebook and into their product, the more money they make. And as of 2021, Facebook is a $1 trillion business. $1 trillion. And another stat that I thought was crazy was 60% of people who have access to the internet, 60%, so we're talking worldwide, 60% of those people who have access to the internet have a Facebook account. And just some of these things that they were coming out, she said that it's a hateful, divisive, misinforming, polarizing content is what gets the most engagement. According to Facebook's own statistics, hateful, divisive, misinforming, polarizing content is what gets the most engagement. It keeps people engaged. And so instead of changing it, it stays the same to keep people on it. Okay, so instead of changing the algorithm, they keep it the same so they can make more money. Because if they change the algorithm, less money. Okay, so they had turned on, and then according to some other stuff that I read, I took a lot of notes down. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but she also said that they had they changed the algorithm slightly during the 2020 election to keep misinformation to a minimum during the election, but then switched back to the old algorithm after the election was over. And of course, Facebook was largely, and this was done by a lot of, there were a lot of different sources that cited this, that Facebook was largely used to plan the insurrection. Thank you. Yes, plan the erection. Yeah,
it's planned lots of
yes, it has planned lots of erections.
None bigger than the one in January.
Right. Facebook was used largely to plan the insurrection on January the 6th. We saw, pictures of, just everything from advertisements to whatever to be there on January 6th. And one of her most poignant comments was, Facebook amplifies the worst of human nature. And I was like, dang, woman, you nailed, and she said, Facebook makes more money when you consume more content. And this was also something else. Two other things I'm going to mention, and we'll just open this up for discussion. But political parties in Europe lodged a complaint last year against Facebook, and this was I took this quote from their statement that they issued along with the complaint. They said they feel, this is quote, feel strongly that the change to the algorithm has forced them to skew negative actions in their communications on Facebook, leading them into more extreme policy positions. Facebook forced them into more extreme policy positions. Basically changing them in the way that they lead their countries. Okay. The last thing I want to mention, then we can go back over whatever you guys want to talk about. her other thing is this is again from internal research that they did. It said that Instagram harms teenage girls. 13.5% of teenage girls said in a study says that Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse. And part of that is that he said 17% of teenage girls says Instagram makes eating disorders worse. As they consume the content, they consume more and more, making it worse, hate their bodies more, and self-harming and all that other stuff. And Facebook said last week, I caught this news blurb that Facebook said last week that it would postpone an Instagram app for younger children. I was like, thank God. And so what has happened this week? So as of Monday, when her testimony was given, Ms. Hagen's testimony, they filed a formal complaint against Facebook at the SEC, so the Securities and Exchange Commission, on the grounds that Facebook has withheld information from their investors. They lied to their investors. They withheld. And so the big question was, okay, well, will this lady get in trouble for releasing these documents? Well, there was a thing that was released about 10 years ago, an act that was passed by Congress that said any internal document that has been done by any company has the right to be brought forward and shown to investors and to the public. And, and I watched quite a bit of her testimony today. I had to take Briley to the ortho, and I was watching a lot of her testimony. And one point that she brought up that I thought was really interesting, she said, back in the 70s, big tobacco said that, filtered cigarettes are safer for people. You found them to be false, and you regulated them. And then he said, car companies said, hey, our cars are safe. And then we found out that without seatbelts, your chances of dying in a car crash are greater. And she said, Facebook and she said she has no ill will towards Mark Zuckerberg because he's created this, what started out as an innocent social media platform that has blossomed and mushroomed into this thing that has gotten people more involved with social media than the real world. And they, like she said, it amplifies the ugliness of our world. So what do you guys think? I already can tell you, I agree totally with what she said, but at the same time, Facebook has become, it is probably, I would imagine it's probably the biggest 60% of the world or 60% of the people who have internet have Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is something that on the one hand, it's incredibly useful. I know, as I'm working with nurses and doctors in the hospital, every unit has their own private Facebook page, and I post videos on there about secondary traumatic stress, about burnout, about compassion fatigue, and it's the best way to get those things out to the people that I care about at work. It scares me to death, honestly, because the more I find out about not only Facebook, but just social media and how they can track and how much they know about you, it scares me. I've got an 11-year-old who's right on the cusp of wanting these apps, of diving into online things, how to talk to him and keep him safe, how to help him navigate the online world without the terrible mental health effects that can come with it. And the other part I just hate about it is that, I have close friends and family, friends that, Andy, that we went to college with, that I've ended up blocking on Facebook because I just can't stomach the things that they put forward. And it goes beyond just a simple disagreement on a couple of issues. It's almost, when Ms. Francis talked to Congress, and she talked to 60 Minutes, I think it was, and she said, hate and anger is far easier to inspire than any other emotion, right?
It's so sad.
So you get these people who get so ramped up in hate and anger and rage that you cannot convince them to come down to a moderate position, because moderate is boring. It doesn't inspire those same feelings. It doesn't get the adrenaline going and all of that. But the sad thing is, I've had uncles and close friends that I've just had to block, because the effect on me in my life has been negative, and I have to draw a boundary for myself. And on the one hand, I know who they are as a person beyond their views, and I can love and respect that. But the rage and just the conspiracy and all of that they just continually put forth, I had to draw a boundary for my own health and say, I can't do it. I can't invite this into my life, and so I can't invite you in my life.
Well, and just to add on to that, if I can, Matt,
Yeah.
it's been probably about a year ago, I think, when this happened. It was during the heart of the election, and you called bullshit on me one time, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but Matt messaged. We, like I say, we're pretty close friends, and we'd visited. I mean, when I went on vacation 3 years ago, we visited each other and everything, and we connect when we can, and we'll talk on the phone. But he's like, look, I'm calling you out on this, and so I ended up calling Matt on the phone. We talked for about an hour, and I just said, look, I didn't even know, and again, not to schmooze Matt too much, but but to let him know that that's kind of the way I've shifted my chain. And he still calls me out from time to time. He's called me out on minimum wage stuff and everything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of people, and I agree with you, Matt. There's a lot of people who have totally, I mean, did more than what you did. I mean, they just totally cut off Facebook altogether because they said, I don't need it. I don't, I mean, my boss is one of those people who don't have Facebook. He said, just because he said, my life is so much. He said, when I talked to him last Tuesday, we always stand out in the hall in the morning, and I said, yeah, Facebook was off for about 5 hours yesterday. He said, yep, didn't miss a minute of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I went through about a 6-month period where I got off Facebook entirely, and I agree with your boss. I didn't miss it. I actually felt better about the world and about myself. Now, maybe I was a little more naive, but just for my overall well-being, I thought it was much better. The thing is now, I, like so many of us, are connected to work groups and things, and that's how work gets done, that it's hard to avoid it at some point. But I was in the same boat, and I hate that. First thing in the morning when my wife and I wake up, we're both reaching for our phones, looking at Facebook and email and stuff like that. Not before we even say, good morning, I hope you have a good day, whatever. Before all of that, we're reaching for our phones, and I do it almost every morning. And then I look at us and I think to myself, what the hell are we doing?
Right. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, there was a span of time where I was off all social media for quite a while. I want to say it was 3 or 4 months, and it was awesome. I plan in the next little while to eventually completely get rid of Facebook. Now there's things I would need to do first and get things squared away to where the ball's rolling, to where I don't have to worry about Facebook. But yeah, and it's one of those things where we as a society try to police a lot of things up real quick. But this is one that's, kind of hypocritical. Like, look at the numbers, that those were what stuck out to me, when she did the 60 Minutes interview, and then when she spoke to Congress, but was the 17% of teenage girls develop eating disorders. 13.5% of girls say that being on social media increase their suicidal thoughts and tendencies. That is an astronomically large number. When you boil it down to how many young women there are out there, and you can see why. Like, so Facebook is typically, I see the same because of how the algorithm's set up. I see dumb shit ads, and then I see about 15 people's stuff, and that's about it. It is, I can scroll through, and I will see one person's status up top, and about, if I scroll for about a minute, I'll see another status of theirs. Not, and I have over 3,000 friends on Facebook.
Same here.
So it's just like I'm seeing the same 15 people's thing. It's the same with Instagram. I rarely see my friends' stuff on Instagram anymore. Even Tony will ask me sometimes if I see a post, and I might not see it for a day or two. Like if she doesn't tag me in or tell me about it. That's the one I'm like, oh, I'm always engaging in her content online, but then like I'm still not seeing it. It's ads, it's influencers that have these deals, and it's it's really disappointing where it's really kind of boiling down to how can we continue to make money. And I think that's where, her point for me is the biggest, is they are skipping the pass on, certain issues and certain protective measures just for a quick buck and to keep that buck rolling and keep investors happy. Which, it's wild. We are rolling into that, into muddy waters and we've been, treading them. We look at, was it China cannot have Facebook? Facebook doesn't exist in China, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay. So now people can still do it. They could get a VPN, and neither here nor there. But when you look at policing the internet and the way, so an example, when Trump got taken off Twitter, you didn't hear anything. Virtually silenced his ability to communicate with the outside world. Now, if you get into, policing people's Facebooks and Twitter and what can be said, it's weird. We're getting into that policing of the internet, which, obviously there's some things we already police on the internet, but, now we're getting into people's ability to speak and repress the content that they see, which, the only thing is you could say is create another social media platform, but that's not a realistic answer.
Well,
so
let me ask, so when she talked, what do you think that would look like then? You're mentioning policing. So she's talking about congressional oversight. What do you think that would look like?
That's the thing, when she talked about that, I mean, I agree that there needs to be some sort of guidelines out there that are well known to everyone and enforced about the civil discourse, right? But who the hell wants that job?
Right.
I mean, I don't, and whoever takes up that job, I would imagine it would be a committee or an institution or some sort of body that would do it. Puts themselves immediately in the firing line from free speech people, from everyone who, I mean, it just seems anti-American at the start, but something needs to be done, absolutely, to promote quality civil discourse, critical thinking, these types of things. I just wouldn't want the job.
Well, and that's, and Facebook issued a statement after the 60 Minutes interview, and I don't know if anybody saw that or not, but basically what it boiled down to is if if there's a solution out there, we can't find it. And that was really disheartening to me to think, okay, because now you've created a monster. And I mean, but Facebook is this, and she mentioned it. Facebook is this part of everybody's integral everyday life as far as small business. I mean, what we're doing right now. I mean, it would be hard for us to get it out and say, hey, I mean, we could broadcast on YouTube. YouTube has a live content section. Instagram does not. I think TikTok does have a live broadcasting section. But again, you know, Facebook is so wired into everything. I mean, if you look on somebody's business card, it's wired into, check out our Facebook page. I mean, I have a Facebook page for my DJ business. And
Well, how many of you guys have, accounts through it could be, a ticket purchasing app or anything that's like connected through Facebook,
right.
all of them, right?
Right.
So funny story is my hotels.com. I love using hotels.com for traveling. It's a great way to save money and get free rooms. So my Facebook name doesn't use my last name, it uses my middle name, and that's just to prevent certain individuals from seeking me out and finding me that I don't want them to seek me out or find me. But it was funny because I get to this hotel and I'm trying to check in, and the dude's like, I don't got a reservation for you, man. It does not exist. And I sat there and I had to pull it up and look at everything. And then I was like, oh, check under Sean Patrick. And he's like, oh, it's right here. And so it's like little things like that, how integrated it is, like just because it's Facebook. And my tickets for the football game I went to this weekend, my all done through Facebook.
Mm-hmm. But when Facebook says, look, if there's a solution out there, we can't find it, I'm very skeptical of that. Because one of the people I follow on social media is a lady named Dr. Jen Golbeck. And she's got a podcast out there, but her podcast is all about the dogs. That she has got 5 golden retrievers, and it's all about life with the dogs. But she's a computer scientist. She teaches at the University of Maryland, expert in social media. And that's what she teaches. And on TikTok, she posts these little 30-second videos a lot of times on the various things that social media apps can do. And, one of the things that scared me to death when I watched it, they always scare me, but one in particular is if I take a picture, let's say I'm at a bar, right? And I take a picture of the crowd. There's a band playing up front or whatever, and I'm in the back, and you've got a picture of the crowd and the band out there, right? I'm not in the photo. But if I send that photo to Sean, and Sean puts that on Facebook, Facebook knows it came from me based on the scratches and the dust particles on my camera lens, which are like an individual fingerprint on everybody's phone. Your scratches, your dust particles on your phone are largely unique to you. And Facebook knows that because of the photos you have posted on your own profile. So it knows the photos that I've taken and put on my own profile. They can tell what scratches and dust particles are there. So when Sean posts a photo from me, it can look at it and say, oh, that came from Matthew. And that kind of ability to me, like I would never fathom someone coming up with the ways to do that. So you're telling me you can do that, but you can't figure out a way to rein in disinformation and promote good civil discourse. I just can't buy it.
Well, and earlier we mentioned the Chinese do not have Facebook. I will tell you this, what Chinese does have, and I had to look it up to make sure I got the name right, but it's called, it's called WeChat app. Okay, now, WeChat has over 1 billion users in China. WeChat not only is a social media site, but you can also use it to you play your music, you can order your food on there, you can schedule a doctor's appointment on there, you can check your bank balance on there, it has literally everything. And it is strictly, the government has a huge say and what's on there and what is not on there. And so this WeChat app, I mean, you can do literally everything from this, and the government watches over this. And I mean, there's the other extreme right there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But like you said, Matt, it totally blows me away. Yeah, I mean, what is the first thing we do in the morning? Grab that phone. Grab that phone. And it really does make you think. Like when you walk into a restaurant, when you look around at the other tables, what do you see? What do you see people doing? They're
Yeah.
okay. This is what you see.
Yeah.
And that is just a reflection of our society. And I bring up our pastor a lot, but our pastor made a statement yesterday in his sermon yesterday that I thought was really, you know, this is what feeds into Facebook. I think the statement he said, we have turned into this group of reactionary people. Okay. And as reactionary people, then we take on this role of the victim, and it gives us this victim mindset. Okay, so where do we air all that out at? We air it out on social media. And I think there's some people who put way too much dirty laundry out on the line. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, you know, when it says that, when Miss Hagan makes the statement that Facebook erodes civic trust and it erodes trust and caring for each other, that's another damning statement to me. I mean, because like you said earlier, and what you were saying about when you basically kind of did a purge of your friend system, Matt, and I mean, I've done the same thing. You know, after the election, I mean, I had a lot of people, and I put a statement out there on Facebook before I did. I said, hey, look, I said, I love you guys. I said, but if you agree with what happened on January the 6th, I don't think I can follow you anymore on Facebook. And I had a lot of people, you know, who did like the meme from Tombstone, well, bye, you know, and that thing. And I'm like, for real, you know, and it is a huge divider of persons, and it is, you know, when you think about what it's doing, and she goes bigger and says what it does to democracy, that those governments in Europe, seriously, you're changing the way you're governing because of how you're perceived on social media. I mean, that's mesmerizing.
Yeah, and it seems like, I remember when she talked about that the governments are having to take positions they don't even like, because if they don't win on social media, and then they don't stay in power. And it seems like the positions continue to get more and more extreme over election cycles.
And what I mean, and this is what I mean. This was the brainchild of why Sean and I started Voice of Reason. He said, I still remember, I think, Sean, your exact words is, let's wait till the shit show is over in November till we start this thing up. And, I mean, we hadn't even started. I think our first broadcast was in February. In January the 6th it happened, and we kind of, I remember talking with Sean over the phone, and we're like, oh, how do we, this gives us a lot of fuel for the fire. But I mean, when you look at, man, if anybody should have been put on trial, you know, other than Donald Trump, man, Mark Zuckerberg should have been put on trial, because I mean, you had all the evidence right there. All you had to do was just bring it up and say, here it is. Here's this content that's engaging and telling people to, you know. So I mean, that's what I think.
And that's, you know, that's one of those things too. It's like, okay, well, what's the, you know, like, what can be, you know, what does Facebook have access to? Like, you know, through Messenger, if there's things you've communicated through Messenger, and, you know, like, does Facebook get red flags? Do they get do they get things when people are communicating through silent channels? Like, but if they're using Messenger, are they getting red flags if people are plotting to commit a crime, plotting to commit this, but it would just depend, right? Like, I'm fairly certain if I had to go out on a limb, there's probably, people out there that let's say might deal drugs that do communicate through Messenger to break the law to sell drugs to one another. Now, let's say that doesn't get flagged, but then let's say, like, if a group is like, hey, we're going to go picket at the Capitol, not do anything crazy, but go picket, and then all of a sudden that gets flagged. Like, so what would be, then it's just, and, I've always heard too, like, whenever you get those apparent, I'd have to look more into this, so don't quote me on this, but I've heard that allegedly, like, whenever things get like reported, right? If you report something and Facebook looks into it, it's an actual person that is actually looking into the thing. It's not a computer. So you have all these people that literally sit there in front of screens all day looking at a lot of violence, a lot of death, a lot of child pornography, laws being broken, lots of all kinds of crazy shit that gets uploaded on Facebook that they have to flag and take down, or when you get the little, this is viewed as offensive, see why, and then you could, that's a person that is making that decision. So if something gets pulled up, then if it's on Facebook, what if someone's just digging through your messages and has access to your messages or what you've been communicating? Is that a breach of our privacy? How much do they really see? It's that same kind of argument that was made where Apple was going to have access to your photos, to where that the goal was essentially to get rid of pedophiles off of their phones. Is that Apple would have a AI technology that would go through your phones to see if you have child pornography on your phone, and if you did, you'd be flagged, and then authorities would be contacted, or what's the next step after that? And what if you have something on your phone that's not child pornography but might be considered regular pornography, and then all of a sudden that's it, Apple has that, and it's the same with Facebook. It just gets into very, how much are we willing to give up to these companies in order to have access to use their technology and then if you don't, then it's like, well, fucking call Alexander Graham Bell, son, because that's about all you got left is the old rotary and smoke signals, Buster.
Well, do you guys know anybody who has been put in quote unquote Facebook jail?
I have many times.
You have?
Yeah.
Describe what that's like, Sean. What's behind that? What did you do to get in jail?
I made multiple. It was always when I made like a dick sucking joke. It was always like something along those lines. Literally, one of them was at one of the PS5 when I was like posting about wanting a PS5 so bad, and what I would do for a PS5.
I remember that. Oh my god!
And then one of them, I got put in jail. Yeah, it was one of the posts. I put something up, and then like someone commented on it, and I responded with something like, "Man, if you got $20, that's about like 1/100th of a PlayStation 5. Let's get to work." And then I was in Facebook jail. Like for that, I was in Facebook jail, and the longest one I've had was 14 days, and it was 14 days of. I mean, I literally couldn't do anything. I could look at posts, but if I clicked like, a notification would pop up and say you can't do, this.
So
for
you
14
could look
days.
at Facebook, you just couldn't interact.
Correct, but you got to think like, I got chewed out by work because they expected me to regularly have stuff posted, but like I couldn't even post to my business page. So it just, if you get put in Facebook jail. And I have friends. It's funny. I got a buddy that's a comedian, that he's been in Facebook jail so many times that it gets to the point where like the first time it's, 2 hours, second time it's 4 hours, and then it's 24 hours, and then it's 7 days. Every time he does something and he gets put in Facebook jail, it's a minimum of 30 days. It doesn't matter. Every single time. So he'll be like, I won't see him post for a while, and then I'll kind of forget, and then I always just like, oh, that motherfucker's in Facebook jail right now.
Yeah.
And then then all of a sudden he'll post daily until he doesn't, and then it's like, well, he'll be out in 22 days.
Mm.
It's just like your local meth head that runs around Pike County. Like, you're kind of surprised when you see him, and then you're like, he's never going to go to prison, but he'll be in jail all the time, and then you see him, and
Right.
and then you don't see him. In and out, in and out.
Well, that is if Facebook is so intertwined with our communities, with our society, maybe there isn't a solution. I mean, because a lot of people raise a big stink now when you said Donald Trump was kicked off Facebook, and when he was kicked off Twitter and all that other stuff. So if they change the algorithm to where it doesn't get spread enough, I mean, you're going to have people who are going to cry out even louder, I think, about freedom of speech even more with that. And so, I mean, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I think I get what they're saying, but I mean, just for saying that you are exploiting the safety, you are exploiting people's lives, you're exploiting women, you're exploiting young women, you're exploiting everybody just so you can make that $1 trillion coin. And I think that was a good thing that we didn't have it for 5 hours. If you guys get a chance too, I think you need to watch. I watch it on Snapchat every week. I have a subscription to the Weekend Update on SNL, and I mean, they rolled in through the fire hard, and it was hilarious because one of the guys who was on SNL actually went to college with Mark Zuckerberg. And he was on the Weekend Update, and it was just I forgot the slam, but I mean, it was so good, and it was just like, I mean, it's going to be the punchline to every joke now, but maybe there isn't I don't know. That's the scary thing. If there isn't a solution, then we're going to keep on going to hell in a handbasket, because look at where we're at now. How long have you guys been on Facebook? When did you start your account?
I was in 7th grade, but I know when I started Facebook, there was like a year and a half. So I made one, and then I didn't like it. I liked Twitter more. And then actually, I liked MySpace better at that point.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but yeah, it's been well over a decade. Yeah, for me at least.
Well, I was looking at this earlier. I've been a member since 2008, so it's 13 years. And a friend of mine told me about Facebook, and that's how he said, "Oh man, this is what everybody's doing now." So I mean, I have an Instagram account that I barely use. I'm not a sissy, and I'm not afraid to admit I do have a Pinterest account. Thank you very much.
I love Pinterest.
I'll pull my panties up later. It's okay. But yeah, I mean, I love Pinterest for I get on there a lot for recipes. I get on there a lot there's tons of how-to stuff on there. And I mean, there's this new app that is out that I got a thing in the mail about, and I've tried it for a few days. It's called Neighborhood. And it's this thing. It's supposedly, people in Louisiana, and there was a lot of people in Louisiana on it, and I had to delete it because I kept on getting so many notifications, and it turned into this local gossip board, and I was like, nope, don't need that. I even tried, what's the right-wing thing, Parler? Was that what it was called?
Parler.
Yeah. I tried Parler for a day, and I was like, Nope.
Parler doesn't exist anymore, does it?
Yes, it's back up.
Oh,
Parler, I don't know who they got as their server service, but I think their old server platform was with Amazon, I believe, and Amazon booted them. And I don't know who backs them up now.
Some wacky shit on Parler.
Oh, wow! We could
Yeah.
spend an episode just on that. I wouldn't want to, but you could spend an episode on that.
Yeah.
But I've said this all along. I think social media has more cons than it does pros anymore. When it first came out, I loved it because I could keep up with people like Matt, who and you, Sean. I mean, we do. I mean, that's how I know about. I mean, when Matt takes pictures of the people he works with, when he takes pictures with his therapy dog, and when he, stuff like that. I think that's awesome. I love seeing it on that. And my old neighbors had their daughter's birthday last weekend, and we get invites through that. I mean, heck, we don't even do Christmas cards or birthday cards anymore because you just send holiday greetings or whatever. And like I said, it's so ingrained into our society anymore, but yet it amplifies what she said. It amplifies the worst in people. When I followed students on Twitter who, I had this one student in particular. She's been graduated for like 5 years now. Girl would never say 2 words in class, but man, she shouted. I mean, practically shouted on Twitter, and I followed her on Twitter, and I mean, she was just, I'm tired of all your mother, all this. I was like, whoa! I didn't even think, and but like you said, there's no filter button, there's no anything, and I mean, I think that's why they say that you need to be careful about, because it is always out there. It's always out there, and you need to be cautious about what you put to Facebook or any social media period.
Yep. Gentlemen, I need to step off. I've got a busy day at work tomorrow, but I wanted to spend some time with you all. And
I think we're getting ready to close up shop anyway for tonight, aren't we, Sean?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So,
well, I'll hang out with you for a little bit.
Yep. So.
Well, yeah. Well, again, a fun episode, and yeah, quick, short, sweet, to the point. As more stuff comes out from this, we'll definitely keep you guys updated. We'll kind of do like an umbrella and kind of go back through some of the stuff we've talked about in the last month or so, and then more info that we get on some newer issues. We'll throw in there. Yeah, but before we do sign out, gentlemen, is there anything that you guys would like to add or say to our lovely listeners?
Thank you, Mr. Edelman, for joining us again this evening.
Mm-hmm.
I always like seeing you in front of that nice thing on your wall back behind you there.
I live in a theater. You don't know that, but
and now I'm going to be more self-conscious about Sean's circular bed behind him and what funky
I've got
things
so many questions.
Well,
and next week I will have so many answers.
There you go. God, thanks, Matt. We appreciate you being on, buddy.
I want answers. I want diagrams. I want maybe a whiteboard. Can you incorporate a whiteboard into?
I'm sure I could get a whiteboard in here. Yeah. Oh yeah, tons of them. Tons.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you again. Oh, and also again, remember to check out Calamity's Reign on YouTube. It's on Apple Music. It's on Spotify. Give Charlie a listen. I think it's just an instrumental album, but I think you'll enjoy.
Yeah. And again, make sure you guys check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Google Podcasts, right here on Facebook, YouTube.com, Voice of Reason Podcast 2021. Check us out for all your podcast needs. Again, I've said it's a broken record, but please, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Give us a share, comment, like. If there's anyone you know that you think might like to give us a listen, please let them know about us. The more the merrier. The more people that listen, the more resources we have to get to do this and build this into something special, to where hopefully I can get off of OnlyFans and my photos on the round bed, and I can make money elsewhere. So thanks again for listening with us, and we can't wait to talk to you guys. Until next week, we'll see you then.